Alright, so we're looking at the brain today. Again, all of this up here, which is the upper part of the brain, looks all folded with all these little curvatures. This whole area of the brain is called the cerebrum. And again, the job of the cerebrum is for conscious higher thinking. Then we have this kind of fold here in the middle of the brain. This fold right here would be the corpus callosum, which is a bridge between the two cerebral hemispheres. So it connects the right and the left hemispheres of the cerebrum together. Then we have right here, which is right underneath the corpus callosum, is the thalamus. And the job of the thalamus is to receive, process, and transfer information. Right behind the thalamus, a little bit more posterior in the brain, is this other little round swelling. And this area is known as the midbrain. And the function of the midbrain is to relay visual and auditory inputs and to help coordinate movements. Then we have in here, which is the lower part, which is the brainstem, the first part of the brainstem right here, which is the pons, which connects the cerebellum spinal cord with higher brain centers and aids the medulla in regulating respiration. So it helps the medulla oblongata, which means south of that, right here, the first little swelling out from the spinal cord is actually the medulla oblongata, which again, just like we learned before, controls involuntary life functions and internal organs. Then we have this big softball-like structure that's in the back of the brain, and this is the cerebellum. And the job of the cerebellum, once again, is for balance and muscle coordination. So those are the major areas of the brain. Then you have to know the lobes, as well as what sensation that part of the brain is responsible for. So if we kind of work our way around the cerebrum, we can start right here, and down here, first, this front part of the brain is called the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe would be up here. And down here at the base of the frontal lobe is the sensation where smell is interpreted. And then kind of right in front of the corpus callosum, right up here in the front of the frontal lobe, is where speaking is going to be interpreted. Then kind of right here in the middle of the corpus callosum, you can think of it kind of like a mid-divider between the front and back side of the brain. Pretty much we call, in part of the frontal lobe, right in the front of this middle area would be in control of motor, so movement. And then behind this, which is now part of the parietal lobe, which pretty much goes from the mid-center almost to the back little swelling here past the corpus callosum, this region right here is the parietal lobe. And the middle portion of this is responsible for touch and pressure. Then if we go to the back of the brain, this low portion of the brain that you see here, this low portion of the brain behind the corpus callosum is the occipital lobe. And at the base of the cerebrum in the occipital lobe is responsible for vision. Now, the one that's hard to see is the side lobe. So if I rotate the brain, out here on the outer side of the brain, this region that's out here on the edge would actually be the temporal lobe, and the function of the temporal lobe is for interpreting hearing. So its sensation that it's responsible is for hearing. So once again, if we go through the lobes, we have the frontal lobe, which is really big. In the frontal lobe, at the lower portion is smell, up in the front portion is speaking, and right kind of dead center is the motor area. Then from middle of corpus callosum to the end of corpus callosum, this region here is the parietal lobe, and the beginning middle part of that is for touch and pressure. The back portion of the brain behind the corpus callosum, all this region, is the occipital lobe, with the base of it being for interpreting vision. Again, on the side of the brain, if you go to this big side region here, this is the temporal lobe, and this area of the brain is responsible for hearing. And that's it.